Welcome to China Dispatches, the official podcast of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China. This is your host, Jacob Gunter, the Chamber's Senior Policy and Communications Manager. Today, we have a special episode for our listeners. At the end of 2019, the European Chamber launched the initial phase of our cross-industry mentor initiative. The goal of the program is to improve female representation at the senior management and board levels in China by partnering mentees with European business leaders to advise them on their career development. The Chamber chose this as the focal point of the program due to the lack of gender diversity among top leadership within the Chamber's member companies. Our hope is that this initiative can generate an impact for future female leaders while providing a platform for future diversity and inclusion initiatives, as well as leadership development programs. The Chamber has kicked off its second phase of this program and is calling for applications from potential mentees until the 30th of September. If you're a businesswoman between the ages of 30 and 45 and are interested in applying, please go to our website to learn more. In today's podcast, one pair of mentor and mentee will share what they have learned and achieved from the first mentorship phase and discuss the differences between our program and other in-house mentoring programs. The mentor, Joerg Wuttke, Vice President and Chief Representative of BASF, China, and President of the European Chamber, and the mentee, Gloria Zhou, Head of Strategy and Business Portfolio at BP China. This episode will be moderated by a guest host, Sarah Wagner, Project Manager for the German development agency GIZ China. As an ardent promoter of female empowerment in business and society, I can think of no one better to lead a discussion on these topics with Joerg and Gloria. Now, to the show.
I'm Sarah Wagner. I'm a project manager at GIZ and also the author of the upcoming book Unleash Today, which helps young, ambitious women to unleash their potential in the workspace.
Hi, my name is Gloria Zhou. I am Head of Strategy and Business Portfolio for BP China here based in Beijing.
My name is Joerg Wuttke. I'm Vice President of BASF and heading the office here. I'm also President of the European Chamber, a third time, 7 years under my belt. I am 30 years veteran of the China business, and I'm very happy to be also a sponsor of this mentor program.
Thank you both of you for being here. Let me start out with a question. Why do you think it is important to support female leadership proactively by, for example, creating a mentorship program?
I mean, it's obvious that there's an underrepresentation of female in top leaderships. And it's very ironic, as we're in the European Chamber, that actually Europe is led by two women. The Commission President is a female, and the Chancellor of Germany is now sitting in the European Council. So women prove to be able to rationally get things done. In a way, that's exactly the mix that we are sometimes missing in male-only organizations. And there's a huge potential there, and the bench is not very deep because women don't get promoted to the same extent, and hence I guess it's valuable to have this kind of mentorship in order to not only try to help one individual, but to give a sign that this can be replicated elsewhere.
And if you say we see that those women that make it to the top are actually really excelling, what do you think then are the obstacles that prevent all the other women to follow suit?
Well, I'm talking as a man here, obviously. I mean, first of all, we don't get pregnant, and that's always a throwing back. I know my wife, she's deputy head of a Russian oil company, that she was out of business for 3 years, and that is normally, particularly in this certain age group, something which draws you back. Then there is the anticipation of the male company leadership that as she is a woman, she might actually drop out, be it true or not. So there's really this incredible headwind. My experience there is that, again, in Ursula von der Leyen's case, you have 7 children, you become president of the commission, and you can do it. Then second, of course, is the fact that if you are a male-oriented company, you have a male-oriented discussion culture, and women just talk differently, think differently, and it is a great loss for companies if they don't take that kind of different voices on board.
Now, you mentioned Ursula von der Leyen as a role model, so to say. Do you think that women like her then actually help to encourage other women to pursue similar careers, or might it rather be off-putting, as it is even intimidating, as many women probably might think, how is it even possible to have such a career next to 7 children?
I would think it's encouraging. We all need role models. It's encouraging to see women choose different paths, whether they want to be parent, or want to be a successful politician or a successful business CEO. I think having different role models are really essential, encouraging women dare to think, and then encourage them to take different risks, and then encourage them to choose different career paths.
Now, Gloria, why do you then think the cross-industry mentoring program of the European Chamber is so important, and how can it really help in practice to bring more women into mid and senior management positions?
This is a fantastic opportunity. So you rarely get opportunity to be mentored by the CEOs of the European company's China operation. And I'm privileged and very appreciative to have this opportunity. To me, I work for BP in China in the last 16 years. I have been mentored and developed by the company itself. One of the values of joining this cross-industry mentorship is to get different perspective from different companies. When you are in one company for too long, you tend to be biased towards certain thinkings and certain behaviors. And this is a great platform to hear different voice for personal development.
I think that it was really a signpost for the European Chamber. Listen, it's not just that we sort of advocate your problems with the Chinese government. We advocate to actually get better in operating in China by just tapping into the female talent pool there is. And I guess that's very important for people to see that this is nothing aloof, this is not a workshop, that this is something intimate in a way, 2 people sitting together trying to sort of figure out how to develop.
To all the women and hopefully also men out there listening, perhaps you can take us a bit through the process, in the sense like, how do you develop this trust? How do you get started in the first place? If you didn't know each other before as a mentor-mentee, you're matched. Do we have to imagine you suddenly sit together in a room, you sit there every 2 or 3 weeks? How flexible is it? How strategic? How much planning is behind? And how do you make sure it's still a natural trust that can develop?
So I think it's up for the mentees to develop a program together. How do you want to introduce yourself? How do you want to structure the relationship between you and the mentor? And how often do you want to check in with your mentor? So I took the initiative to develop that program before I first met Joerg in his office, and we agreed we would cover a couple of the key areas. One of the areas is being how to communicate with headquarters more effectively, and we also agreed we will not do a regular every 3rd week of the month type of check-in, but we will do a quarterly ad hoc. But before that, I'll send him an update of what I have done, and then what are my thoughts, so that we could go into the conversation more effectively. So this kind of format works out well for us, even during the COVID. I always feel like I could connect with Joerg, on whatever I need, and I'm also actively participating on the chamber activities. So I get to see some of the work Joerg has been doing, especially for example position paper, the COVID response. So those are all helping to maintain that connectivity.
Do you agree, Joerg, or do you have any other thoughts?
How could I disagree? I mean, it's obviously something where you go in with expectations and curiosity of who is that person. I met Gloria before briefly, but I never really sort of sat together with her for an extended period of time. So for me, frankly, I never felt she has a hidden agenda or prepared well. I just felt like it's incredibly natural. There was good chemistry. And I was very grateful that she didn't put me up for a kind of once a month for 1 hour straight and so forth. And it was a very good flow. about tackling this. And that builds up trust. And I guess really what you need in that relationship is trust. You might say one or two personal things, then of course you share your worries. You want to hear, what kind of things can be done differently. You open up quite a bit. And by actually being a mentor, you give away a lot where you think like, I wouldn't tell this to my customer or to the Chinese government, So in a way, it is something where it has to click. Luckily, I must really give credit to Nina and her team, as the Chamber has done a marvelous job in screening who the mentees could be. Frankly, also not just asking around who could be a mentor, but also looking that the mentor are the right match. A title doesn't give you the right to be a mentor. It has to be a certain personality structure.
Now, making it a little bit more personal, what did you personally, as a mentor, Joerg, or a mentee, Gloria, get out of this experience, and how did you personally benefit? What about you, Gloria?
So to me, being a Chinese working here in China, working for a British company, one of the challenges is to be able to make the China story heard objectively and powerfully by the headquarters. Joerg, he has 3 decades of experience here in China, and his company BASF is making tens of billions of investment here in China. So they have done a fantastic job of making the China story heard. And that was my initial draw into this relationship. So I want to hear from Joerg, how can I make a powerful and objective story within the headquarters where we could portray the China opportunity objectively?
And what was one of the main learnings in this regard? How do you now, after you spoke about it, think about it? How do you enhance your visibility and your personal branding, so to say, towards the headquarters?
That's a very good question. I have 2 key takeaways from my interaction with Joerg. One is to stay objective. So there is ups and downs, there is opportunities, there is disadvantages in China and within the world as well. So being able to objectively tell the China story, analyze the China opportunity is essential. So we, as a professional, so we want to be objective, not being seen as somebody who is always biased towards China. I think that's the number one. So number 2 is getting things done in China is quite complicated and often not being understood by the headquarters. So being able to effectively navigate through the headquarter decision-making process, I think one of the key is to be like Joerg, establish a credibility of getting things done effectively here in China.
Would you say the topic of visibility and self-promotion, self-branding, however you want to call it, is generally an issue that mostly, more than men, perhaps women struggle with?
Let me first say that branding is maybe a misunderstood word because you are trying to be yourself. I guess in headquarters, people see certainly the track record, and there is very often a tendency of heads of government relations here or in heads of companies to oversell China, to sugarcoat the problems. Luckily, I work for a company where basically we are in reality and not in theology. We are trying to sort of not believe what we see, but actually believe what can be proven. And that is very, very important back home, that people see that you have noticed the problems, you have voiced them in order for them to feel comfortable to actually tackle them. So really, I guess it's easier for a German than for a Chinese to be within the system. Expectations and the pressure is certainly more on the Chinese side to order not to put any black spot on the white shirt of China. But I guess branding is really how credible are you and how much can you convince the headquarters that what you really say is what they can expect and not overselling the case. So branding means a principled stance of credibility.
Gloria, do you have any other key tips to share with the audience on how to be your authentic self and be credible? Perhaps also as a follow-up question, particularly as a woman operating in a male-dominated environment.
Well, first, I think we should be mindful of what is our personal brand, how people see us in the headquarters and how do they see us here locally in operation and what are we good at. there are traits we can develop within the personal brand framework. Once we have a good grab on that, then we will become a lot more confident, in terms of who we are, what are our strengths, how do we present opportunities to the headquarters.
That's very interesting. Thanks for sharing. Now, I wonder, apart from the topic of visibility and branding, are there any other major topics that were very important in your continuous dialogue as mentors and mentees?
Of course, you draw from your own experience how I grew up, which is very different from Gloria. I grew up in the southwestern part of Germany in a village to German parents who have never even came to China or Asia for that matter. And for me to reach out to someone from within China with an American English company background, this is a huge cultural gap we're talking about. But I must say that we share the same kind of curiosity, and the chemistry was right. Curiosity was very important to me in order to maybe showcase to Gloria how curiosity, this kind of outside the box, the interest not just in business but also literature, art, or other areas, being engaged in NGOs, being engaged in other parts, visibility gained outside the company, which then translates into more self-esteem within the company, that was helping me to get out of this village and end up in Beijing heading a company and the European Chamber. So in a way, I guess it's a development path. Everyone has to seek his own way. But what really, I think, connected the two of us is she has an incredible sense of her curiosity.
Now, you talk about the cultural gap. Of course, there might also be an industry gap, so to say, because this cross-industry mentoring program is essentially this, connecting a mentor and a mentee from different industries. How do you think this is special about the European Chamber mentoring program, and how did it perhaps help you in developing in comparison to other, let's say, in-house mentoring programs? Gloria.
The industry mentorship, so fortunately, Joerg and I had some similar industry experience as I worked in petrochemicals, and now BP is divesting petrochemicals, so we had some common ground in terms of the fundamentals of the industry. So it wasn't too hard for us to connect and resonate with similar common ground. The industry mentoring program, to me, I think the pairing piece is really important, pairing the right mentee and mentor. With that, there could be common languages, common understandings for each other to understand. The other thing for me is particularly precious is having access to the seasoned executives within European companies' operation in China. And Joerg has had 3 decades of experience in China, which is rarely found and not accessible even within our own company. And so being able to access his wisdom, his experience, and his approach of always asking and probing open-ended questions are very inspiring and stimulating. I'm very grateful that I benefited from his experience and wisdom.
Now, it should be, of course, a two-way street, right? So it should not just be the mentee benefiting from the mentor, but also the mentor from the mentee. Joerg, you have mentored a lot, of course, in your life, as you have also done, actually, Gloria. What motivates you to be a mentor? What do you get out of this?
Well, I guess like Gloria said, you have 2 kinds of mentorships. One is within a company that is very much targeted in developing a person to get into a certain position, even to the point where that person is going to replace you. And so it has a different quality to it because there is a expectation involved. What is really different with the European Chamber is that the expectation is on another field. The expectation is to learn from each other. What does resonate with me is, again, her curiosity. And I can clearly remember when she left the room or the meeting we had, I was thinking about what she was asking. What was my own experience, because again, it is not charts and organization layouts and market access and so forth. It is like, how do I communicate? How do I get credibility? How do I get traction and so forth? And you walk away and said, like, was it actually true what I said? I mean, not that I'm lying, but sort of it gets you going. Because in the midst of all these kind of daily works you have, the last thing you really question is yourself.
we know, this is actually also proven by studies, that women tend to engage in overthinking and harboring doubts. Now, I can imagine some women out there listening and thinking, oh my goodness, what do I have to offer to someone with that amount of experience? Am I good enough to apply? And actually, I might also not have time because I have my kids at home that I need to take care of after work. I don't think I will be able to fit it into my schedule. How would you go against such thoughts and still encourage these women out there in mid and senior management level positions to take the time and also have the courage to apply in the first place?
I think part of it is women needs to have a growth mindset. So this cross-industry mentorship is all about personal development. It is not about finding a job. So are you mindful of your own personal development? If you are, then you need to take actions on it. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing I would, if I could just leave my reflection here, is just to think about asking for help, asking for guidance. They're not sign of weakness, they're sign of strengths. So they are signs that you are mindful of your development. You want to become a better, stronger individual, more effective individual. So just think through, how do you want to develop yourself? We all develop at different pace, depending on, the stage of where we are. Always developing yourself, and then ask for guidance. And it is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Well, in my world, the ladies that made it to the top, interesting enough, have mostly an engineering or a scientific background. That sort of gives them maybe the certainty of an established structure where they feel at home, and you can't sort of middle around and challenge and so forth. Again, Angela Merkel is a scientist, Ursula von der Leyen. On the BASF board, we have Saoirse Dubourg. She's a biochemist. And so in a way, it gives me the feeling it's like ladies should just be self-assured that their system they're comfortable with is good enough. They don't have to prove it. Because very often in the male society, I feel women feel disadvantaged. They already go in with this feeling and then sort of try to accommodate male expectations. I must say the ladies that I deal with that made it all the way to the top are very principled, frankly, in many ways more principled than the male population of a company. And then secondly, they have a very strong self-confidence that they know their stuff. And you can't derail them easily. And I think this kind of self-esteem and self-confidence is hugely important. And you cannot develop it by getting criticized from your colleagues. You can gain it by actually having exposed yourself to many different shades of life experience in order to come out of this and say, I'm good at this, but I'm also good outside the company in that. I'm a good speaker. I exposed myself. I'm a good parent. I am an accepted member in my religious group and so forth. The more you have docking stations and the more you have actually this kind of diverse background of engagement, the more you are successful, I guess, in the one area where you actually get paid for it, meaning in a job.
Thank you for bringing up this super important topic of confidence, Joerg. I was actually reading the other day that the self-assessed level of confidence of women is only on par with that of men in the 40s, which is quite incredible. Personally, I believe it's very much linked to the upbringing, but not going into that direction. I rather wonder how can we now kind of tackle this issue of confidence then in the workplace. Because I personally think it's wrong then to just say women don't have the confidence. Now here's the recipe, develop confidence, and then you will succeed. You were talking, for example, Gloria, about the growth mindset. Joerg, you were mentioning, you were actually saying also it's about development, right? It's something you can learn. And this is, I guess, personally, I find the important aspect to reiterate here is that confidence can be learned, because many women out there might now think, oh, but I don't have the confidence, so that's it. But you're not born with confidence or without confidence. It's a muscle that you have to strengthen over time. Would you have any tips as to how you can do that?
So I would say, if I may offer just 2 tips. One is learn to fall. And then get up again. and learn to be a risk taker. And I know it's easy to say, but it's difficult, to do. So try with something smaller. I shared earlier this morning, I am not very fit physically, so I try to get more engaged with physical activities. So one of the actions I took last year is to sign up with a 50-kilometer charitable walk. So I had teamed up with my colleagues, and they were hugely supportive, and I made it. So it was 14 hours nonstop walking. We raised the funds for the underprivileged kids in Guizhou province. So there were a lot of struggle along the way. There were multiple times I wanted to give up, but I didn't. And I think that process is helping to build process similar like this. Struggling, getting out of it, that kind of help to build that confidence that you will be able to get through some of the challenges. And the other one I'd like to share is really be a risk taker. I think women intuitively, are risk averse. We don't like to take risks, but in today's life, it is all about taking the risk and then trying to get the best out of it. So we need to have confidence and giving people space to be risk takers, not to penalize them, if they fall. And I'm very grateful that, my managers, and the companies I work for, and, BP, they have been allowing individuals to take risks and supporting them, not to penalize them.
Personally, I very much agree, of course. It's about overcoming your fear by taking action step by step and embracing risk. I guess I personally wouldn't say women are risk averse. I guess they embrace calculated risk. Because obviously we have, as women, still in many regards other obligations that men might not have when it comes to the household or family, that is still often assumed more actively by women. What do you think in this regard? Risk-taking, embracing challenges, Joerg. What is your perspective as a mentor and man?
Well, I guess that is a difficult thing because it sort of looks like black and white. I don't plead here now for 50 Shades of Grey, but it is something where I would say image that I more have of that is maybe male managers are more like carpenters and women are more like gardeners, nurturing and trying to sort of see that everything has its place and is growing and is sort of fitting together. Whereas we are trying to sort of, if it doesn't fit, we hammer it in the right position. So I must say that I guess also companies would benefit greatly. I know from my own company, when we have more female leaders, it changes the discussion on board level, it changes the discussion on project level, and it is just really a different thing that women bring to the table. Are they more risk averse? I don't know. That brings us back to the Stone Age, where women are in caves and men are hunting in the savannah for meat. But at the same time, I would say, as a woman, maybe you're less enticed in order to show off. I mean, cyclical is this to me. I have 5 children. And I can see that women are vastly more self-confident initial phase, and then the boys take over, being vastly too over self-confident, and then basically entering this career. And then, as you pointed out, then women come out on top on the 40s again. I guess it's really a cyclical thing about having to prove something, and maybe women have to prove less than men do, and hence they come across differently.
Now, Joerg and Gloria, thanks so much for this discussion. I would love to go on for hours and hours, but unfortunately we slowly have to wrap up this conversation. So perhaps I would invite both of you to just share some final thoughts or comments to the women and men out there, to the women that are possibly interested and also applying to become a mentee, or also men and women that might want to become a mentor. What do you have to say to them?
So I would say this is a rare opportunity. So take advantage of the opportunity when you can, to be mentored by the executives of the chamber. Second, have a growth mindset, and then be mindful of your own personal development, and where do you want to grow, how do you want to grow, and who can help you to grow. Thirdly, and prepare well. So when you enter, if you're one of those lucky ones to be picked for this program, prepare well. What do you want to get out of the program? How do you want to manage the mentor relationship? How often do you want to reach out to your mentor? And lastly, have a great time. I really enjoyed being mentored by Joerg, and I'm very grateful of his time.
Joerg, what do you have to add?
Well, just really to be brief, let me talk about poems. I grew up loving poems. I think they teach you a lot about pictures. They teach you a lot about concise language. They associate a lot of things. It's not a linear story. It's more Chinese in many ways. It's like a Chinese character that comes along. And if you really want to get inspired about what to do with your life, particularly as a woman, read Robert Frost, The Road Less Taken. If you take a road, as Gloria said, where you see more risk, you might fall, but you dust yourself off and carry on. And at the end of the poem, it's the concluding remark is that he became the person that he is, self-confident, because he took the road less traveled, meaning with more underwood and more challenges. And I guess you should not be shy taking that road too.
Wonderful. So I hope to everyone out there, we encouraged you to work on your growth mindset, to embark on that road less taken, and ask for help and support by a European Chamber mentor. So we hopefully you will apply until the end of this month. So thank you, Joerg and Gloria, for sharing your lessons learned and your key takeaways from the first cycle of the mentoring program, for being so open and personal, of sharing your learnings and talking about the importance of supporting female leadership. See you next year.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah, for your help, and good luck with your book. And I'm looking forward to seeing Gloria myself as a case study in there.
Thank you.
Thanks again to our guest hosts, Sarah Wagner, and to our guests, Joerg Wuttke and Gloria Zhou. Once again, businesswomen between the ages of 30 and 45 are eligible to apply as mentees to the next round of this excellent program, but you will need to submit your applications by the 30th of September. Once again, you can find more information on the European Chamber's website. As always, a special thanks to my colleagues Gao Rei and Zhang Yicher for their support behind the scenes. Thanks for listening.